So thank you for coming to have a listen to Visible Thinking with Microsoft Whiteboard. I started Visible Thinking about 18 months ago, and it changed the way I taught, and it more importantly changed the way children learnt. And as I started using my Visible Thinking, I was really looking for a tool from Microsoft, or anyone, but Microsoft is my go-to, and that would replicate the post-it note feeling in a digital world, because Visible Thinking relies a lot on post-it note interaction. And Microsoft had the sticky notes, but I couldn't put it in OneNote, I couldn't put it up anywhere else, and I just couldn't get anything close to it. And then along came Microsoft Whiteboard. So I'll take you through the whiteboard features first, so you'll know what they are, and then I will show you how I use it to draw thinking out with our children. So Microsoft Whiteboard is an app that's available for free download from the App Store, and it'll appear in your little app list at the side. You log in with your Office 365 account, or you can use a personal Microsoft account. And Microsoft really wanted to have just the simple whiteboard experience in a digital world. So they've kept the toolbar very minimal, and you can see down here it's a pen. So if you pick up the pen, you can just type like you would a normal whiteboard, and you can rub it out. So for teachers stepping into it, there's nothing too complex there. And they've added in the lovely galaxy and rainbow tools as well. You have a highlighter and an eraser. The rulers are quite a cool tool that wherever you put it, it locks, and you can draw lines, so you can make it quite nice on the board, which we like to do with the kids. But what happens is when you use this little feature here, that's where all the beauty starts to happen, in that little extra bit of tooling if you want to go that direction. So the other thing to remember is it's a never-ending canvas. So you can create and draw as much as you like. So if we have a look here at this toolbar, one of the first things you'll notice is the image feature. So if I go down here and say I want to put in an image, it'll pull from your hard drive or your documents. And what's really good is that if you pull in a few images together, it will stack them. So as you're writing and teaching, you can tap on your little pictures, it'll pull them out for you to look at and talk about, but then it'll pull them back out of the way again if you're not using them. So that's not a necessary tool, but sometimes it's a cool thing for the kids to look at, put it away. You could do some deep pondering and thinking through the images. The other nice feature is that they have the text, and when you type, it gives you the nice font there that you can enlarge, and it just is a nicer presentation. If you're not a neat handwriter, you can still make it look pretty cool. The sticker bank, they couldn't load them, I don't know why. I won't worry about those. But when you tap on the sticker bank, there's a lot of stickers, a bit like in the OneNote now, but you can pull them in as well. There's one there. Bing images. So I'm not on the internet here, I don't think. Let me have a look. See what happens. And you can actually handwrite in here what you would like to find Bing images of. It's a dog. And they'll pull up images that you can then pull into the whiteboard without going out of the whiteboard app. What's really good is, if I type in here, I have to write it, a graphic organizer. See how good my writing is up this way. The text recognition is actually really good. So if I say I want a graphic organizer, and I might pick up this one, and I add it to my page, what you can do is tap it, tap the little wand, it'll draw around, and it's actually now grab the ink and pull the ink out of the picture onto the whiteboard so you can interact with it. Oh, sorry, this one here, and interact. See if that one will do it. Try again. There we go. So you can interact and take out bits you don't want and use the bits that you do. So you can actually modify existing graphic organisers as much as you would like to there. So that's called ink grab, and when you're on an image, you tap the little wand. Another really nice feature, and you turn it on in your settings, is the ink to shape and ink to table. So if you're drawing a table, so it's picked up that it's a square. If I go like that, it says, oh, you look like you're making a table, and you can start adding some columns and some rows. And then, as always, you draw your whiteboard on the table on the whiteboard, and you start writing. If it's not big enough, it'll expand to fit your text. So they're nice features for when you're working with the kids. The other thing I have up in here is that you can export whatever you've done and send it off as a picture, or you can send it to OneNote. And if you send it to OneNote, you get a link back to the original whiteboard. So people can be looking at it and say, I'd like to jump into that, and tap the link and they're in it with you. And if they don't have the app, they can use View on Web. So you're not excluding anyone. Sometimes if the other person hasn't got the app, they can't interact. So there's that's a brief overview, but it's not complex. So if you jump in and play, you'll work that out. But the Visible Thinking is a Project Zero initiative, and I'll take you through a couple of activities I've got with that. So these are my whiteboards. I just use the back arrow. If I want a new one, create new. But here's, if this one will pull up. So Project Zero thinking routines are what we use to get the children, hope it comes up, thinking about what makes them say what they do. So when they give you an answer, you're trying to get them to go back and think what made them say that. So if you look up Project Zero thinking routines, you'll get this one called Step Inside. So what I've done there is I've put an image, and if you tap on the image, I've already done it here, you can lock that image to the page. And then I wrote up, what can this person perceive? And the children, we talked about, because of the environment that woman's in, she can probably perceive protection of family. She can know what it's like to have her life threatened. She might be a peacekeeper. She might know what it's like to fight for freedom. So if they're her perceptions and that's what she knows, then what might she believe? And you could say that because of her perceptions, and if she's a caretaker, for example, she might think using a gun is the only way to protect her family. She might believe carrying a gun is necessary. So if she perceives that and she believes that, what might she care about? And this is where you would tap in your menu, say you'd like to add a note, and the children said that she probably cares about survival. Survival of family, survival of self. And that's how your little post-it notes work. And I can change that to a different colour so we can see. But that's called Step Inside, and it replaces saying, how do you think that person feels? Or what would it be like to walk in her shoes? You've actually taken them through the thought process of what it might be like to walk in her shoes. This thinking routine here, try to find it. You can see on my whiteboards there. This one here. This one's a little bit the same in that it gets the children to think about what it's like to be someone else, but it's more getting them to think about the story behind that person. This one's called Beauty and Truth. So I showed a clip, and the clip was from this website called StoryCorp. If you've never been to it, go and visit. The American community thought they would lose the story of the people of off the streets of America. So they took a caravan around, got people to do podcasts of things that had just happened to them. And they're beautiful stories. And this one here that I was shared with the children, the man lost 2 sons in 9/11, a fireman and a policeman. But every night before they went to work, they always called and said to him, "I love you," and he said it back to them. And that night they had done that as well. So we listened to this story, and it's really sad because his dad lost 2 children, but we said, well, what's the beauty in that story? And the beauty was that the last words were, "I love you." So there's beauty in that. But the truth is, we don't know what's ahead, and some things are beyond our control. So we're getting the children to say, yes, while some things are beautiful, there's other truths that go with them. And the truth isn't always a negative thing, but it's just it's looking at both sides of the story. So that's called StoryCorps, and it's well worth going to visit. So that routine's called Beauty and Truth. Just can't find I'll do question sorts. This routine is called Question Sorts, and it involves, you can use questions the children have come up with on a topic, and you run those questions. They write it on a post-it note in Whiteboard, and they have to place it where they feel their question sits. So is their question very interesting and very generative? It's going to pull a lot of thinking. They would put it up in that top corner. If it's not interesting but it's going to generate a lot of talk, they could place it. And they put it on there without speaking to one another. But the secret here is you can move each other's questions. So if you think your question's really interesting, but other people don't, they can move it. And the kids argue in the beginning and they get a bit upset that people are pulling it away. But it does work really well to develop collaboration and a bit of reflection on whether or not you think your questions are the best. I didn't use questions here though. I have done it in the past, for example, with space, and maybe a question could be, how long does it take to get to the moon? It's not that interesting, it's not going to generate a lot of discussion, it'll be a one-off answer, but maybe that's a fact that we need to build our knowledge. A more interesting, highly generative question is, what skills does an astronaut take after he's been to the moon? What will he then be able to do with his career once he's no longer an astronaut? And it's amazing what you come up with, what an astronaut could become. But for this one, instead of using questions, we actually pulled up these, I'll bring it over here, Humans of New York, and it's a Facebook page, and they're little stories. And I've clipped them because some stories are really interesting. There was a lady that went to the hospital and she was on her own, but a whole family of gypsies were there, and she looked at their beautiful community, 20 people for one person, and she was on her own, and it was all about community. Whereas this little boy down the bottom was just amazed at his day at school. All he had to do was write toothbrush in capital letters, and that was huge. It's an interesting story for him, but probably not for us to explore. Whereas the gypsy community, how different cultures and people work, that would be more generative. So it's a really nice tool for doing that. What I found though was I'm getting a bit tired of drawing those lines all the time and writing, and there's no template feature in Whiteboard. So what I've done is I drew this without the image on it, and I took a screenshot, and then I clipped it down, cropped it down, and then I now have that as a picture that I can insert, and I lock it to the background. So when I want to use that, So I drew it like that. That was my original. I took the screenshot, and then when you insert it, I'll see if I can get it up here. I'll just add another picture to show you. I just want a picture. Say I've got that as my background. That's another thinking routine. I can lock it to the background. If I tap there, lock to background, and now it's locked there. It may have also, I could have turned that into a ink grab as well. So that's, the other one I've got, and it's gone, I can't see it, is Tug for Truth. So I'll just make one, I'll show you how simple it is. Grab the ruler. Draw my line. And you ask the children a question, and for me it was, should the Aboriginal flag be flown on the Harbour Bridge every day? Because it's currently only 17 days a year. And they had to pop a post-it note on, and they had to type yes, because, and they gave their reason. And then they placed it where they felt it should be. So we'll put yes at this end, no's at the other end. And then I gave them some facts about the Aboriginal connection to the flag. And some of them came in, and if they weren't up here, they were moving them. And then I gave them an opinion piece from a paper, and to see if that would change their thinking. And then once we had it locked in, we actually discussed why they placed their answers where they were. And everybody said yes, bar two. And the two, I'm nearly out of time, one boy said, no, it'll cause fights and I hate fighting. I'm not interested. And that was it. So to me, I was looking at him going, why wouldn't he, want this to happen? And that was for him a really valid reason. And the other girl said no, because it represents all Aboriginal people, even those that do the wrong thing. And we had this was year 4, so there were 10. And I said, well, what about the Australian flag? Who does that represent? All the Australians, everybody, all of us, even if we do the right thing or the wrong thing. And then we spoke about how your opinion can change depending on what you hear and when you hear it. She'd lived in Darwin up until she was 6, so she had a different perspective. So this tool, along with the visible thinking, meant that I saw thoughts and ideas in 10-year-olds they could never have written out in an answer to a curriculum question. So all I can say is jump in and play with it yourself, but also let the kids jump in. This was a year 5 board. I'll show you this one. So I made a group, and I'll just show you that before I get kicked off. So I put children together. You can set how many kids you want to work on a whiteboard. There's a lot of images there. I hope it doesn't freeze at the last minute. But it will be up over here. It's just disappeared while it's loading. There's a little blue face, and when you click on that, it will say, would you like, here we go, would you like a link? Here are the children that are currently working on it, and I clicked on there, and that's the link that I sent them. So it's really easy to bring kids in to collaborate, and you can lock it down to a certain number of children. I didn't tell them how to organise their work. They had their post-it notes. There was no reasoning behind their changing the colours. Sometimes they do. It's to do with one thing or the other. One other group, I won't open it, but you might be able to see, they used the pen and they mind mapped it out. So it's endless. That's my time. I hope that's been helpful. Look up Microsoft Whiteboard and Project Zero, Visible Thinking. It's a Harvard initiative. Thank you.